It's time to clearly reflect. It's time to clearly reflect. It's time to clearly reflect. The Clear Reflect Show. It's time to clearly reflect. It's time to clearly reflect. It's time to clearly reflect. The Clear Reflect Show. Bring in your dirty mirrors. We're gonna get them clean. Digging in a little deeper on the Clear Reflect Show. Working to heal our wounds, securing our peace too. Got plenty work to do on the Clear Reflect Show. It's time to clearly reflect. It's time to clearly reflect. It's time to clearly reflect. The Clear Reflect Show. Bring in your dirty mirrors. We're gonna get them clean. Digging in a little deeper on the Clear Reflect Show. Working to heal our wounds, securing our peace too. Got plenty work to do on the Clear Reflect Show. Gon' get them clean. Gon' get them clean. Gon' get them clean so you can see your pretty face. Gon' get them clean. Gon' get them clean. Gon' get them clean so we can see that pretty face. Get the dirt off. Get the dirt off. Get the dirt off. Mirror cleaning time. Get the dirt off. Get the dirt off. Get the dirt off. Mirror cleaning time. We're gonna shine. We're gonna shine. We're gonna shine. It's time. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. If you catch the replay, good afternoon or good evening. Here in America, it is the day after the Thanksgiving holiday. It is my prayer that you are in a posture of gratitude, that you are in a peaceful place, and that you not only feel, but that you know you are surrounded by love. If for some reason your present circumstance doesn't align with what I just stated, it is time for you to shift. Good morning. Welcome to the Clear Reflect Show. I am Valencia, the Visionary Thompson, your host. I count it a privilege, and it brings me great joy and pleasure for you to take time out of your day to be with me, especially if yesterday was a holiday for you, especially if you're not in your normal place on a Friday and you had to adjust to spend this vital time. Thank you so much. So, today's episode, we are, of course, still in season 1. This is episode number 6. Our title is Step 5, Brokenness. See the label to remove the label. Let me repeat that. Step 5, brokenness. See the label to remove the label. If for some reason you happen to stumble upon this show for the first time today, let's do a bit of table setting. So you can understand the model and flow of today's episode, please do go back and watch episode number 1. You can view it on whichever platform you happen to be watching right now. But if it's difficult to find it there, you can always go to brokenleaderbook.com, click on the Clear Reflect Show tab, and find out how things are working here. So as you see featured beside me are copies of my latest books, Broken Leader, and the sister to that book, The Broken Leader Mirror Cleaning Study Guide. And this is the foundation for the show and the conversations that we have here. Now, you know, or maybe you don't know, this is your first time, that we start out with a question. So you know I have a question for you today, right? I have a question. And if you have not grabbed something to write with, please do, because I'm going to always give you things to take away. Now let's start with our question. Let's see. Have you ever walked around in a public space for a while only to later discover something was on your face or in your teeth and no one bothered to tell you? I'll raise my hand. I'm going to ask that again if you missed it. Have you ever walked around a public space for a while only to discover there was something on your face or perhaps in your teeth and no one bothered to tell you? I'm sure it's happened to the best of us on the best day when we were feeling great, looking good, feeling grand, and you're like, oh no, right? No one enjoys that moment. And it's interesting if you think about how we were designed. For without something to reflect your personal image, you can't see yourself, right? So, barring any disabilities or accidents, you're born with two eyes that can see, and you see outward, but you can't see your face, right? Now, you can hold out your hand, see your hand, you get my gist, but you can't see your entire being without it being reflected. And so, on the Clear Reflect Show, we're dealing with what we reflect. And we're also reflecting in our minds about the past experiences that we have gone through in our lives, right? And so, though this is step 5, you have to do some things, right? You have to table set, do some work. Many of us, almost all of us, if we were being honest, before we want to acknowledge a label that's not favorable, a label that's undesirable. And I've said it time and time again. I can imagine this book repels a lot of people just from the title alone, right? Broken. Nobody's embracing that. Nobody wants to be called broken. I don't want to be seen as that. You don't want to be seen as that. But when we can identify things that are in need of repair, praise God, then we can move forward into the abundant things that we have a right to claim for our lives. But this is first. So, brokenness. See the label to remove the label. And most times I will continue in this vein to speak to you, but I'm going to do something slightly different. And I'm going to go ahead into our first reflection statement or question, because it's going to do a lot of work for us here today. If you already have your study guide, I want you to grab hold to it and open it with me. And we are, of course, in step 5. And you're going to flip it to page 39. If you don't have it yet, that's okay. You can go over to brokenleaderbook.com, grab your copy of the bundle so you can read with my personal vignettes, scripture and devotional as well, and then join in to this work. If you want to, the main book is available at Amazon. Both books are available at walmart.com, and there are other places as well. Now let's dive back into this. So if you don't have a copy today, write it down. Number 1, labels are not always fun, especially when others are calling you something you don't like. I'm going to repeat that part. Labels are not always fun, especially when others are calling you something you don't like. But the reality is, if you hear something more than once from people you love who also love you, it is worth taking in. But the reality is, if you hear something more than once from people you love who also love you, it is worth taking in. Reflect on this. If this applies to you, take note. If my speed was too fast and you don't yet have the copy, that's okay. Catch the replay and go back and capture it, but stay with me in this moment. Okay, let's dig into this. I'm already uncomfortable. How about you? Transparency, vulnerability can often be uncomfortable, but it's when we approach the things beneath the surface, when we venture to take that deep dive, we can get to the root of our issues. We can discover more about who we are. We can begin to understand the paths we have taken already in life and see if they align with what we believe we've been purposed to do or not. We can, in those moments, course correct and readjust. So in number 1, you heard me state the portion about if you hear people you love and who love you saying things more than once, it's worth taking in. I made that note when I wrote this book because you can also hear things from perfect strangers. Let's be honest. Perfect strangers can be honest too. They can see some things, especially if there's somebody who is perceptive or discerning. They can tell you things too. However, if you're somebody who sees yourself as wise and you may struggle with taking criticism, you're not really going to take it from people who don't know you so well. You're just going to be like, oh, whatever, let that kind of pass by. But people who've experienced you over some years or known you, maybe there's some family members, maybe there's some friends, you get the point. It's kind of worth taking note of, especially if you consider that person to be of good character and who has not tried to bring you any harm. And often, amid the things that we don't want to see, there are beautiful things cultivated right alongside them. So I keep trying to pause to make sure I'm on track, and I am. So I need to do a bit of testimony, if you will, or personal sharing. So if you know me personally in my life, and if you've known me for a number of years, I have what may be called a bold personality. I am definitely known as an extrovert, though I'd say on this side of 40 with children, I enjoy my me time too. But that's how I'm known. And I also was raised amongst leaders who had no problem vocalizing how they felt. And sometimes, historically, my approach may not have been welcome. right? Or it may have been too much, or too much at a certain particular time. And I was one of those girls who struggled with maybe being called bossy, maybe being thought of as being too much. And I struggled with that, and it brought me great pain. I'd also say it allowed me for some time to bury the things that are good, right? Um, and if you are also a leader, and I've already told you that we all are at different moments in our lives, whether we want to be or not, you may have heard this before as well. And so we have to be careful as we course correct and as we try to dig up the roots or things that don't belong, that we don't remove what is good, right? That we don't begin to say that the very essence of who I am or the very essence of who God created to me to be is wrong. That's not what it means. It just means that you should take note and fine tune how you share and give out what it is that God gave you to give to the world, right? You might need to fine tune it a bit. And I'm thinking about different analogies we can see. So I am into superheroes, and I'm not going to name any name any right now. I don't want to get into any battles about which ones are greater, but I'll say we've all seen the origin stories of different superheroes, right? And when they're young and they first realize they have some type of otherworldly power, and we're going to use that as a metaphor for your gifts, right? Your talents. And when you're first becoming aware of them, you kind of fumble through them a bit. You're kind of clumsy a bit sometimes, right? Now, some of you might be like, no, I came out of the womb refined. Okay, then this doesn't apply to you. But for the rest of us who had to kind of, just like a baby learning to walk, you kind of just had to stumble through it a bit. You fell a little bit. That stuff hurts. Let's just call it out. It hurts. You don't feel like it looks good, and it can be embarrassing. And if you were mishandled, you may have retreated. And while it's okay to take a break and take time away to recover, to mend any wounds or heal any wounds, I'm here today to tell you that you were never, ever meant to remain in hiding. Those gifts, those talents, those things that are within inside you were meant to be shared in this great big world for specific works. And if you've been hiding and if you've been afraid, it is now time for you to tap back into what you need to tap into so that you might be used for the glory of God. Woo! So, brokenness. See the label. To remove the label. We want to take it off, right? We want to be restored. We want to be healed. We want to be whole. We want to take off the label broken and brokenness. But if you can't first see it, you can't pull it off. If you can't acknowledge it's here, you can't make it better. If you refuse to listen to the clues and the cues, the miracle signs and wonders being performed around you, which are pointing you to what needs to be adjusted, you won't move forward. You will not. You will remain stuck. You will remain stagnant. And the greatness within you will remain stifled. Step 5, brokenness. See the label to remove the label. Woo, I know. I know. But there are so many great things that remain within you that need to be uncovered, that were placed within you for a time such as this. Look at the world. There's a lot that's loud and wrong. There's a lot that's ugly that's trying to hide beauty. There's a lot of misinformation, untruths. You get the point. So, come on out. Be used to the glory of God on this day. All right. Step number 2. Or number 2, I should say, not step number 2. Excuse me. We're on step 5. But number 2 within step 5 is think on number 1. What are some ways you are willing to address the prior written areas for concern? What practical ways can you change in these areas for the better? Here it is again. Think on number 1. What are some ways you are willing to address the prior written areas for concern? What practical ways can you change in these areas for the better? I don't know about you, but I'm grateful today. As I said, it hurts a little bit, right? It hurts when we have to look at these things and do this work. It's uncomfortable. But how do we say it? There's a new level loading. There's a new level loading for your life. There's a greater call to advancement. And if you don't get these things right, and if you don't correct these things, if you don't realign with what you're supposed to be aligned with, you're going to miss it. Aren't you tired of this level? Aren't you tired of operating here? Brokenness. See the label to remove the label. All right, y'all. That is it for today. Thank you so much for joining me. We're going to go ahead and wrap up today's show. As always, I'm going to ask you to please join my sorority sister, Keonti Lomax, for the Everyday E show, which airs on Fridays at 8 a.m. If you've missed the last show, please be sure to tune in. You can watch it on LinkedIn and YouTube, and you can get your weekly tips for peace and productivity there. I also want to tell my beloved cousin, happy birthday. Happy birthday, Jason. I love you so much. He is my cousin who was like a brother to me, and today is his birthday. Before I go, I want to say, if this time was beneficial for you and to your personal development, I invite you to continue the journey alongside me. If you want to connect, always visit brokenleaderbook.com. If you want to message me as it pertains to this work, feel free to do so on whatever platform you are watching this. If you have any issues with communicating with me, let me know. I look forward to seeing you next time. Please do enjoy this Friday. If it happens to be a holiday continuance for you, I pray that it'll be a peaceful time. It'll be a fun time, a joyful time. If you happen to be in a space where these things are not happening, shift. God bless you. Have a good day. It's time to clearly reflect. It's time to clearly reflect. It's time to clearly reflect. The Clear Reflect Show. It's time to clearly reflect. It's time to clearly reflect. It's time to clearly reflect. The Clear Reflect Show. Bring in your dirty mirrors. We're gonna get them clean. Digging in.